Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Lafferty again. We're going to do lesson 88, which is transformations. So it's kind of cool. I'm horrible at spatial awareness. I don't do this easily, so I get it if it's hard. We'll try to make it as easy as we can. Okay, so a couple of vocabulary terms. Congruent, same shape and same size. So I've got two F's. I kind of tried to make it look like the book. So if I cut them out right, they are the same shape and the same size. They are congruent figures, right? Okay. What we're going to do is we're going to just move them around. We're not going to cut anything off. We're not going to fold them. We're just going to do 3 different movements to them, and that's called transforming them. Okay, so I made myself graph paper just so I could get a sense of what's happening. First thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate my F. So rotate means turn. So you think about putting a pen in the corner right here. You can put it any corner you want and spinning it around. So I just rotated it 90 degrees. I rotated it 180 degrees. Now I rotated it right back in place, 360 degrees. Be easier if I have a pen, but I don't want to put a pen in my table. Anyway, rotate just means turn, so that's easy. Still see the front, nothing changes about the shape other than the position that it's in. Okay, next one is translate. So that just means slide. So I'm going to move it back and forth or up and down. So I can translate it downwards, I can translate it upwards, translate it back and forth. And sometimes they'll tell you how many spaces to go, and sometimes it's just translate or slide it. Okay, so that's easy. Still looks the same, nothing changed about the shape other than where it is. Okay, next one, we're going to reflect the shape. So that means flip it, kind of like turning the pages of a book. So I can reflect it a couple of different ways. This is the vertical axis, so up and down. I'm going to reflect it on the vertical axis. So I'm going to take it and turn it as if it was a page of a book. And now I see the back of my shape. So I've reflected my F, kept backwards, right? Now I can reflect it downwards. I can reflect it and reflect it. So I can see the fronts and the backs. That's reflection is the only time you're going to see the fronts and the backs of shapes. I like colors. The book doesn't give you colors, but again, we'll make this as easy as we can. Okay? All right, so they've done the same thing. They've said these shapes are congruent. Even though they're not laying on top of each other, they are the same size and the same shape, even if they're in different positions. Rotate means turn. So they've taken that F and flipped it up. They've taken this F and translated or slid. So they slide that. Oops. Lost my page. There we go. And then there's reflection where you turn it like the page of a book. On page 574, they've got this nice little box with all the definitions. And those are words that you really have to remember. They're hard to memorize, but you need to, okay? Rotations can be described by the amount of their turn. So rotate 90 degrees again. And that's clockwise, so like the hands on a clock go that way. And if I want to rotate it 180 degrees counterclockwise, I'm going to come all the way down and rotate it down that way. Rotation is the only time that you'll have that counterclockwise or clockwise. Okay? The activity is kind of cool, but we're not going to do that. You do not have to. So let's look at the examples. They've taken that 3 and they said, sketch the figure 3 after a 90-degree clockwise rotation. took that 3 and went just 90 degrees that way. So that's easy. And then they want you to do the number 2. So you're going to do the same thing. It might be helpful if you draw, and if you get confused, draw the number 2, cut it out, and just turn it, and then you can see what's happening, or just turn the page. Example 2, they say triangles ABC, so this triangle, and XYZ are congruent. Remember, that means they're the same shape and the same size. So it says name 2 transformations that would move this triangle to the position of that triangle. So they're kind of opposites, aren't they? So if I reflect this triangle and turn it over, it's going to look like that. And then I'm going to slide it into position right on top of that one. Excuse me. An example 3, they're congruent shapes. And I'm going to have 2 transformations that would move this triangle to this position. So I'm going to have to rotate it around point C. So that's where I'm going to put my pin, turn it that way, and then move it down. And then I would have a same position. Lesson practice. This was the one that kind of I thought might be a little confusing to you. So instead of F, I'm going to use, instead of R, I'm going to use F. It says sketch an uppercase letter R after a reflection in its vertical segment. What? Vertical segment? They're just saying here, we're going to reflect on that. So I'm going to take my R, I'm going to use my F, and flip it over that way. So what does it look like? So I think everything else should be pretty easy for you. Go ahead and do your lesson practice and then your written practice odds. Email me. I put it in the website if you have any questions. Thanks, guys. Bye.